I'll go on now to introduce our three experts, who are Ruth Holroyd, a freelance copywriter and author of What Allergy blog. Ruth knows what living with multiple allergies is like and will help us better understand the allergic consumer. Hello, Ruth, how are you? You're mute. You need to unmute.
Hello, thank you very much. Yes, I'm very well today, thanks.
Come back to you in just a second. Jackie McPeak is an award-winning food allergen specialist and founder of her own consultancy, Jax Limited. And Jackie will be explaining allergen legislation, what caterers need to know and where they can obtain advice and help. Hi, Jackie, how are you?
Morning, nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me here. Very exciting.
Yeah, good. And finally, Caroline Benjamin, who founded her own company, Food Allergy Aware, in 2013 to enable the food service sector to understand and embrace the free-from customer. Caroline will be explaining PBDS and what it means for the hospitality industry. So that's it, there are our speakers. We're going to start with Ruth. So Ruth, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me here today. It's a real privilege to get to talk to so many people in the hospitality industry, because as an allergic consumer, we don't generally get to meet you guys. So this is fantastic for me to get to talk to you all. So without further ado, I will share my screen. Okay, is that working okay?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's fine.
Great. So once again, thank you for inviting me. I have had allergies all my life. I'm now 48, so that's quite a long time living with them. It started off with a peanut allergy, and now I've collected quite a few over the years. I have a book called The Reluctant Allergy Expert, which is kind of how I see myself. I've reluctantly had to learn quite a lot about them and quite often know more than my doctor. So I've written a book to help people with the psychological side of it, and also poetry for eczema, if anyone's into that. So a brief introduction of me. I've been blogging as well for about 12 years now about living with allergies and eczema and things like that to try and help people. So it's kind of a passion of mine to raise awareness. So again, it's great to be here today. So I'm going to talk a bit about who we are, the allergic consumer, how we want to be treated, look at some good and bad examples and consequences of getting it wrong. You all know what that is, but I'll just talk about that for a bit. What it's actually like to be me and people like me. And then in conclusion, it is scary catering for people with allergies. I know it can be, but it can be a huge opportunity, I think, as well, particularly to make money if you want raving fans. So yes, multiple allergies. I've kind of done all this. I do like to speak at events, so this is great for me, and also on the radio. I get rolled out sometimes as the most allergic woman in the world. So let's start with, how do you spot an allergic consumer? It's actually not always easy to do. Not all of us are really vocal about it, so I'll go into that now. I'm looking at this group here. You might think it's this guy, but it's probably not. Because what people don't always do is phone ahead, particularly a lot of people who are new to having allergies, or they don't want to be fussy, they don't want to stand out from everybody else. And it is really hard to get that confidence, because we often feel like we're fussy, like we're being awkward or difficult. And it's quite hard for a lot of people to stand up and say, excuse me, I'm going to be really awkward now and tell you about all my allergies. Now, I have quite a military procedure that I go through, but not everyone does that. So not everyone will phone ahead. I would tell everyone that they must do that, really. And if possible, I will go in person to the place, because then I'm a real human in front of them and not just a list of allergies that someone's told them over the phone. Wouldn't it? I think maybe we should all wear a badge. I think that would actually be quite cool. And also the servers could wear a badge saying, I'm the allergy expert server. That's just popped into my head. We also struggle to trust staff. So sometimes people will just choose something from a menu they think is safe. It's all very dangerous things to do, but this is what your allergy consumers might be doing. We don't know how to communicate them very well, and we don't get taught how to do this either. We get given adrenaline and just sent out into the world to try and navigate it, so it's difficult. And also, as we come now out of the pandemic and lockdown and probably a year of people not really eating out, it's been a while. It's been a while since we ate out. And I, for myself particularly, found that I tried some takeaway options and most places weren't happy about serving me, partly because they were not staffed so well. Perhaps they'd furloughed some of their best staff. The choices were reduced, and every place I spoke to when I told them I had serious allergies was kind of saying, this is like a weird situation for us. We're not ready for that. Just to keep me safe, I was pleased with them for saying that, to be honest. I would rather people were honest and said, don't do it. This is like not the best time to try it. So, and by the fact that last time I phoned for an ambulance, I was told to get a taxi, I decided to play it safe. So it's also been a while since your staff had allergy training, perhaps, because it's been such a weird year. And again, staff maybe haven't been working all year. When did you last look at your allergy menu? I'm sure some of you are really on top of this, but it has been a weird year. So if there's ever been a weird time to start eating out, it's now. So we're really scared. We're kind of creeping out of the woodwork and we're not sure. I've kind of forgotten how to do it, and I have started to eat out again, but it's been a really anxious time and I've been fine. I've done it twice. I've eaten out with, and I'll go into one of them later. I think I have an example. I had a takeaway fish and chips with this amazing new company that I've discovered, and I've been to my local pub, so I'm very pleased with myself. But it's really scary to start trusting people again. So there are different types of customer. There's severely allergic customers like me, who is very vocal because I have to keep myself safe. But I haven't always been like that. I've always been severely allergic, but I've probably been behaving like someone much lower down the chart and choosing something I think is safe. So maybe a steak and plain chips and asking for it plain, but not really being very vocal. And I've come a cropper there because sometimes restaurants will butter the steak or they'll put the sauce on, or it's just not the good way to be. So you'll have all these different types of customers. You'll have people who are not vocal with very serious allergies. The problem being not every reaction is the same. So people might have had mild reactions and then they could have a really bad one in your restaurant because they've been exposed to a lot of an allergen just because they haven't been so vocal. People with mild allergies, people with dietary restrictions, and these can also be made really ill. So I think we kind of see them as maybe less important, but somebody with irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's and food intolerances could be sick for a week, could be made really ill. So they just will never come back if they've tried to get something from you that's lower in a certain food type and it hasn't worked out. There's celiacs as well. They're made really ill, and some of them don't have symptoms, but it will have still an effect on their health, which I don't think anyone really understands what that is long term of being continuously glutened. And then we have the lifestylers who say they're allergic but are not, and they are often very vocal and very demanding and will expect you to have options for them. So we're all here, we're all consumers, we all deserve to get a meal. We all expect to get a meal. Actually, I have very low expectations. So mistakes can happen, and I've seen it happen a lot. It's kind of when all of these things come together, I feel. So a lack of awareness, poor processes, and people not really understanding how to communicate with the allergic consumer. So people who don't listen, they'll quite often, I hear this so many times, I'll say I have a really serious milk and peanut and nut allergy, and people bring me the gluten-free menu and start talking to me about gluten-free options. Now, I also have a wheat allergy, which is not life-threatening, so that's helpful for me, but it's not encouraging for me. And you get that a lot, where people will assume they've heard and they've understood and they haven't. And all of these reasons, I won't read them all out, but it's kind of a melting pot when all of these things go wrong, and that's when you get these awful situations where somebody dies in a restaurant, which is what we're here to try and avoid. So how we want to be treated, and there's so many, Jackie and Caroline are the people to speak to about ways you can make this work well, and I know Caroline's spoken about this before, but how to really make us feel like you've made an effort, because quite often we are very disappointed in what we get. And that can be because quite often we'll get a plain jacket potato, a piece of dry chicken, maybe some vegetables and some fruit salad for pudding, and we pay full price. We pay just the same as everyone else. We don't pay less for this rather unappealing looking meal. So quite often you'll get customers who are kind of underserved and underexcited by what you're giving them, and you don't have to do much to make us feel really like you've made an effort. So there's lots of ways you can do that, and it always puts my mind at rest when someone says, does anyone have an allergy? And it has started to happen more. But not only does that mean you'll get the teenagers and the young adults who are too frightened to stand up and say I have, you'll also make everybody feel like they're included and that they can at that point start having a conversation with you if they haven't already. Having a dedicated server, I know a lot of places do that, can really help. And we've talked about menus a little bit earlier. They're so important. Not only does it help the customer, but it helps your staff, because even if they've had training, they can't always remember each menu option in detail, what's in there. And if you have the menu written and available, it's so much easier because you're not relying on people remembering and verbal conversations that you've had in a briefing before you open and things like that. And it's the whole kind of, it's the whole lot. It's the chef, it's the front of house, it's the waiters and waitresses, it's the owner. Everyone needs to know what that process is and how to make it as safe, not only for the person having the reaction, but to protect your staff as well from being put in situations where they're not comfortable and they're not prepared and mistakes happen. And there's loads of things you can do, which always put my mind at rest, like little stickers and flags. And when people say you're going to have a different colour plate, that's going to be your meal, because quite often that's where things go wrong. I've been brought the wrong meal and nobody checks, and I check and they say, yeah, it's fine, because they still haven't checked, and it all goes wrong. So it's all about trying to kind of future-proof and foolproof that communication process. And the good, I'm going to start with some good experiences. The best times for me are when someone will actually speak to me. When I get to speak to the chef, that's when I feel really comfortable to eat somewhere. And when the chef has time to tell me, like from he's got the most experience about what goes into the meal and what he has time and capacity to do and what's safe in his kitchen. And if the chef says to me the steak is the safest thing, we can do it for you on a clean grill, and we'll clean the kitchen down, or however they want to do it, that makes me feel so much safer. And even sometimes the chefs will say to me, what do you like? What do you want? And I'll get something that's not on the menu. Then I know it's my meal, and I'm completely confident that they've done me slightly different. So it doesn't have to be completely different, but something with a twist that no one else is getting. So I know when it comes that I've got broccoli instead of beans, or I've got something quite different, a different type of potato to everyone else, and I know it's for me. Another thing that a lot of restaurants do, and this is probably because they haven't got allergen menus yet, but it can work really well, is just bringing the menu out and writing on there and going through it with me, which things I can have and which things I can't. And that's a good option, but it's relying on the person at that point to get that right and to write the right notes on there. So again, having a proper allergy menu is probably safer, but I feel confident when that's done, when someone sits down with me and goes through the menu. That's also lovely. And having a choice of more than one thing is kind of mind-blowing for someone with allergies, because it's not always available. And I quite often don't know what to do when faced with the choice of 3. And fruit is not a pudding. I am saying that with my tongue in my cheek, because I do actually really love fruit, but there are fruit salads and there are fruit salads, and sometimes it's just a bit disappointing to get a fruit salad out of a tin. It's a very, very sad thing. Pudding should be the exciting bit at the end, and for us it's often the most boring part of the meal. So this is one of my favourite restaurants, number 1. I think I've missed the one out there, Aldwych Indigo. They have an allergen menu. It's already gluten-free and dairy-free. If people aren't aware of this restaurant, a number of years ago, they went gluten-free and dairy-free in secret and didn't tell anyone. So everybody that came in their restaurant was eating gluten-free and dairy-free food, and nobody knew, no one even noticed. And this is a very nice, I would say posh. It's not expensive, but it's a good price. It's a very good quality food. It's a fine dining experience. So you're getting a lot more time spent on your meal perhaps, and they've probably had very good training. And the owner there, who runs the kitchen, is really good understanding the allergies, and there's so much choice there. It's always such an exciting place for me to go because I can choose from so much. We go back there regularly and we always have a great experience. So they get it right. So this is kind of the food I've had there. I get like, wow, usually I have a picture of a steak and chips when I eat out, or ham, egg and chips. So this was really exciting for me, kind of so much choice. And they couldn't quite do me a cake, but they did me a little sweet with a candle on. And that was on my birthday, before lockdown, before all of this happened. Pizza Express also think are really good at doing this. They've just got it down. Every meal is prepared the same, the menu works, and I get a pudding that's not fruit. And the only negative thing here, and something I would encourage you to all do, is that they never ever communicate on social media. So if you want raving fans and people that will share about your restaurant and tell everyone how great their experience was, they don't say thanks, they don't even like it, and they never respond. And that makes me a little bit sad because I'd be more of a fan if they did. And this was the English Indian that I'm telling you about. So if you Google them and look them up, they are gluten-free, dairy-free. I think they're top 14 allergen-free on nearly everything in there, except they do battered halloumi in a different fryer. So I love this place. For me to be able to go out and have fish and chips is really exciting. So, and they've got it down. They've got it really well organised, and it makes me feel really confident to eat there. And it's great food as well. Pakora flavoured fish batter. It's quite amazing. And here we go. I'm talking about the fruit salad here. This cruise ship holiday was awful, and if anyone wants to talk about that, I think Caroline has some experience of this too, but I had quite a bad experience on my last cruise holiday. A very expensive holiday, and that was the kind of fruit salad I was being given. Like, you can't quite see, but those grapes are actually going brown. It was just not great, and I was having to check every mealtime, check, and I do anyway, but when you have the same servers and the same staff, which is how it works on a cruise ship, it was really difficult and really stressful because I was stuck on a boat at sea a lot of the time, and if anything had happened, I was really quite terrified. I would have feta. I found feta cheese in a salad, and I had so many pictures that I could have shown you, but yeah, one of my family members saw the cheese on the salad and said, "Don't eat that, I think that's feta." I nearly ate that, and that would have been catastrophic for me out at sea. And so I just had no faith in them. And I probably don't need to tell you this, but this happens a lot. Little mistakes where people haven't listened or haven't heard, and this is what we all want to try and avoid. I've been asked to leave, even when I've asked if it's okay to bring food, and then a different server comes over, and it just makes it for eating out to be a really awkward and difficult situation because I've asked for oat milk and got hot milk. There's so many communication issues here when it's in a noisy restaurant and people have misheard you, and there's just so many opportunities for a mistake to be made. These things all make us feel quite terrified about eating out as a community. And obviously the worst thing that can happen is going off to A&E, which has happened to me. And the last time it happened, I ended up in intensive care, and I don't have much of a memory of what happened. I think the body is or the brain and the mind is quite clever how it protects us from these things, but I think I was resuscitated. I'm not really sure. but I woke up in intensive care. Not something I would like to happen again. And that was from being served a pudding, a starter with dairy in it, despite having done all of my checks, even going in person. It just all went wrong on that particular evening. The manager wasn't there. No one had got processes in place. So my notes were just stuck behind the till and no one saw them. And it was just like the staff all hid because they were then really scared about what was happening. They didn't know how to deal with the situation at all. So it was just a really, really, really unpleasant experience for everyone. And I still don't really know what happened there. So let's move on. So I've already kind of gone through this. I won't go through it again, but this is the kind of thing we do. It's like a military operation for a lot of us every time we eat out. And I have this card which lists my allergies on it, which is getting a little bit grotty now. You can see it's wearing out, which I do find helps. It means that somebody can take that away to the kitchen, and those are my main life-threatening allergies, that they can have it written down in front of them rather than a verbal chat, which obviously is a problem. So there you go. This is my little quote. It's just a sad fact that it's not spontaneous for us and unplanned and exciting. It's usually quite scary. And I think there's loads of things that could be done to make it a bit of a nicer experience for us. And there's lots of reasons why we remain vigilant. And I think it's a fine line. My book that I wrote is to help people deal with the anxiety and the psychological side of it. But in some ways we need it. The anxiety is there to keep us safe, and it keeps us vigilant because we could die. So it's a bit like we have to continue being on top of this and really checking every time to keep us safe. But it's about learning to live with that and being confident about it and not letting it make us feel controlled. And it's hard to trust. And we get all of these different people in the eating out experience that we have to trust, and it is terrifying. So yeah, the worst case is you have a personal injury claim, and probably what will happen is the person just won't ever come back. But then you have this sliding scale, and I think a lot of people won't tell you. And there's kind of a need that we need to report these smaller things, these smaller incidences, and even that you guys need to have a book where you share, crikey, something nearly happened today, I nearly served this to someone by mistake. Make sure you're keeping on top of it, and if you get it right, you will create a raving fan. You'll get people going back. I go to this Indian takeaway thing every fortnight now, which is when it comes. I never miss it because it's a really exciting treat for me, and I tell everyone about it. And I have lots of friends, and I get to choose where I go. I post on social media. I will give you reviews without you even asking me to. So it could be more profit for you. I 100% think there's an untapped market of people that are all eating at home because they're too scared to eat out. So there's a lot of things that are really simple to do. If you have an allergy menu, share it. If you can cater for us, put it on your website. This is what we do. We go to the website, and that will be my decision of where I eat. If I go to the website and I think, oh, menu doesn't look great, I won't even phone you up. Because if I can't find out that information from your website, it just makes it harder, you know, makes it more difficult decisions. So the websites that clearly indicate that there are options for people with allergies and that they have a process in place, and yeah, those are the ones that I will engage with. So there are lots of things you can do. So that's the end of my talk. I hope I've helped you understand the allergic consumer, particularly the very allergic consumer, which is where I'm coming from a little bit more. So thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions for me?
Thanks, Ruth. That was fascinating. In particular, I really like the fact that you gave lots of practical suggestions there for how caterers can make it easier for them and you for the eating out experience. That's really good. I'm not going to take questions now because we're going to have a session at the end, if that's okay, because we are running slightly behind time. So I'm going to go straight on to Jackie next, if that's okay. Jackie, can I ask you to deliver your presentation? Thank you.
Yes, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so my name's Jackie McPeak, as we've seen here. So I'm the founder of Jack's Limited. So my background is 30 plus years in the industry. I worked at Manchester Metropolitan University for 20 years, and I was head of catering there. And during my time there, the law changed on food allergen management, and I had 36,000 students, 4,000 university staff. I had 13 cafe bars, 60 full-time staff. We used students working with us, and we used agency. So I was really keen to make sure that our students living away from home for the first time with a food allergy were looked after safely. And in fact, I went to a seminar where the speaker said that that age group, aged 18 to 24, living away from home with a food allergy, were the most vulnerable. So I realised that we needed to make sure that we looked after them properly. So we did a lot of training, we changed some of our practices, we held focus groups for our students with allergies, and made sure they would feel comfortable to come talk to us. And my passion was fueled even further when my own daughter, aged 14 at the time, started to react to various food groups at the start of her GCSE 2-year programme at school. And she was in and out of school, 2 days in school, 3 days in bed, 3 days in bed, 2 days in school, which was stressful for her and for me. Fortunately, she's managed to find out what she can eat and what she can't eat. She's now 21 and just finished university herself, but she's not anaphylactic and certainly not as severe as Ruth's allergies, but she herself also has to check before she goes out to eat every time. She takes spare food with her. She doesn't just walk into any restaurant, as Ruth has said. So I now provide food allergy training, I do allergen audits, and I do food allergen consultancy services. And Ruth, you'd be pleased to know I happen to have on my desk, for anybody that's done my training, I have a badge. I don't know if you can see that there. I have a badge which says, ask me about allergens, I've been trained by Jax Limited, and I have my logo. So I give that out at the end of my training. So I don't know if anybody wears them, but bit of a gimmick there. So I'm now working, collaborating with Caroline, as we both provide the same services. Caroline's in Southampton and I'm based in Manchester. So what is the allergen legislation and what do caterers need to know? Where can they obtain advice and help? So the law changed in 2014 and it was the Food Information for Consumers Act, which is known as the FIC Consumers 2014. And the law says that if you have allergens in any dishes that you prepare, you must make them known. So if anybody asks you and tells you they've got an allergy, you must know what's in your dish. So previously, in my experience, chefs would bake their own dishes, they'd have their own secret recipes, and they didn't want to share what was in their food. But all that changed in 2014. And for us personally, in my workplace, we had lots of work to do to make sure all those recipes were collated and put onto a database, so that we could share information for our customers when they asked. When they came to us and said, I've got an allergy, we were able to talk to them and ask them how we could help them and what allergens they were reacting to. So what does it mean for you? So it means that by now, we're now 7 years on, you should have that database all complete, all working properly, ready for Natasha's law in October 2021, which goes one stage further for any foods which are, as described in the first video we saw, any foods prepared for direct sale and put onto a shelf for sale, such as sandwiches, baguettes, salads and cakes, must have a label on. I know Caroline's going to go into that in more detail, so I won't go into much more detail on that for now, but we need to know that you need to be ready for October 2021, and that time will soon be here. So the numbers of allergens are rising. Over 2 million people have been diagnosed with food allergy in the UK, and that's 2 million that have been diagnosed by the NHS. So obviously with the last 12 months, there's a backlog of appointments due to the pandemic. So there are probably quite a huge number more who have not yet received a formal diagnosis and are trying to manage their food allergies themselves without actually knowing what the proper diagnosis is. So more than 2 million people. 1 in 5 children have at least one food allergy. And at the moment, I'm training a local council, and all their cooks and supervisors are going through the training, and they're petrified of managing children with severe multiple food allergies. Because when they signed up for school meals role, a number of years ago, this wasn't an issue that it is now. And now they're faced with providing safe food for a number of children. So they're all going through the training at the moment. So 1 in 5 is quite a high number. Some of those children will grow out of that allergy, such as milk and eggs, but some of them will have them as a lifelong allergy. 1 in 100 people have been diagnosed with celiac disease. So again, there are quite a number of people who have not yet been diagnosed and who just manage that disease themselves. So any gluten will make them really, really poorly and affects the lining of the stomach. So they can't have gluten at all. There's no cure for celiac disease. The statistics are rising. Each time we hear about the statistics, there are more and more people being diagnosed with allergies, and for a number of reasons. However, we understand much more now about how to manage food allergens, and understanding and training and accepting and being aware of these makes us all able to cater for these allergies. And the death rate is not, unfortunately, that's not risen, it still stays the same. So we are managing them better. So how do we manage them? Well, when I do training, I talk about a positive food allergy culture. And at the moment, I'm quite sad to read a lot of social media posts about a number of practices that are happening out at the moment in restaurants, because people are scared. Restaurants are scared about managing with allergens, and they've got negative messages going out there saying if you've got a food allergy, due to the number of allergies in our kitchen, we can't guarantee and we can't manage. And in fact, a number of them are asking their customers to sign a waiver, to say, I've chosen my meal myself, I take full responsibility, and if anything happens, I won't sue. Effectively, that's what they're saying. I think that's really quite sad, because actually, if you've got the training in place, and you've got the procedures there, then you can manage, and you can talk to the customer, you can discuss with them what foods they like, what they don't like, and provide them with a safe meal. So regular training, but also make sure it's suitable for the level of responsibility in their job. So previously I provided training for 2 large groups in a workplace. And before I went to that workplace, I wasn't told who was in that group, and I didn't ask. I just turned up ready to train. There were 30 people. There were 25 people in each group, and they ranged from the kitchen porter through to the head chef. Now the head chef was he knew his allergy processes really well, and it was only a level 2 course, and he spent the whole time telling me that he already knew that. He knew everything about it. He should have been doing a level 3. And the kitchen porter spent his whole time being rather confused and worried about the assessment. So the kitchen porter really shouldn't have been in that 4-hour class. Caterers don't like to sit down for 4 hours training, I know that. So I make it really, really interesting. However, some people don't really need to sit through 4 hours. So the kitchen porter shouldn't really have been there. He should have gone through a staff briefing where his manager should have explained to him his role and what his role is in keeping the customer safe, i.e., keeping pots clean, making sure that the stores were clean and that all the allergen foods were kept separate. And the head chef and senior supervisors should have been on level 3, because they were quite bored in that level 2 course. So make sure if you're putting people on training, it's the right level of training for the person. Communication is absolutely essential between different parties involved. You must talk to people. People don't automatically know. They don't know if you've got an allergy. They don't know how they can provide food for you. Understanding, empathy and support is really, really important. So we don't roll our eyes. We don't, what have you come out for? Not another one, not another person with an allergy. Go back in the kitchen and we've got another person with an allergy. As Ruth said, this is a large group of people. It's not just that person that's coming to your restaurant, it's their friends, their family. And I know when my daughter goes out to eat, we ask her, where do you want to go? And if she's happy with the restaurant, we'll go back there time and time again. And if she receives understanding, empathy and support, then she'll go back there again, and she'll again talk about it on social media. So accurate recipe data. So we've now had 7 years of making sure that our recipe data is up to date, it's accurate, and actually technology is your friend. So technology is much more accurate than somebody sitting down trying to write a whole pile of recipes in the back office. You need to rely on some sort of technical system. And if that technical system talks to your supplier, then if the manufacturers have updated their recipes or changed any ingredients, then your recipe data management system will automatically be updated. And that keeps everything fresh and keeps it all accurate and safe. I also talk about food allergy policy. So working previously in the university environment, we had policies for everything. We had policies for financial policies, marketing policies, all sorts of policies, pages and pages of policies. So I introduced a food allergen policy, because without a policy, how do you and your team know what the rules are? You need to know where you stand. You need to know what you're aiming for. You need to know what the processes are. And also your customers. So in my case, my customers were the students and their parents who were sending their students, their children away to university for 3 years. And if they were going to look on the website and wonder how we were going to manage their young adult with allergies, they could look at the food allergy policy. Now, the food allergy policy needs to be easily understood. We don't want pages and pages and pages of things that you're your staff won't read. A few pages and in easy to read language is much better, and a well thumbed food allergy policy is much better than one that sits on top of the manager's office not looked at. In fact, ours were in every kitchen, and we had a food allergy notice board in every kitchen with all the allergy information on a poster. We had the food allergy policy on there, and we had the day's menu, and we had the latest media information, just to remind the staff to have that food allergy culture. And robust food allergen management procedures, so that every single time somebody comes into our restaurant, we know what to do. So we ask at the table, as Ruth said, does anybody have any allergies we need to know about? And then automatically we kickstart into that process. We alert the manager, we alert the chef, we make notes, and it's automatic. We don't have to think about it. So it's second nature that we manage that process straight away. So I've heard, you know, various conversations with my daughter where she's been out recently to eat, and in one place she queued up for quite a long time when the restaurant opened again after the lockdown, and you had to eat outside. She queued for 40 minutes. I need a gluten-free menu. So the girl said, yeah, I'm sure we've got one. Further down the line, I need a gluten-free menu. Do we have one? Yes, I'm sure we've got one. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be okay. Didn't look at it as if she understood. 40 minutes later, managed to get to the table and said to the manager, I need a gluten-free menu. Oh, we don't do gluten-free food here, sorry. So 40 minutes, and the girl didn't know what she was talking about. So in that case, there were no procedures in place. So as mentioned before, communication is vital. So communication from the supplier to the caterer and vice versa. So really, really important if a supplier needs to substitute an item, they need to let the caterer know. They don't just drop the delivery and run. They need to let them know in advance. We don't have that particular sauce, but we have an alternative. Is this suitable? Because in my training, I take actual sauces with me and I show them that there's two sauces. I won't name the brands, but two sauces look identical, both sweet and sour sauce. And in both the brands, the allergen are different. So one has one allergen and the other brand has two different allergens. So if they just substituted one sauce for another without talking to the caterer, then they're introducing unknown allergens into that kitchen. And if they're not alerted, then it could cause a problem. Because that's what happens sometimes, is that it's the supplier just brings in different food and doesn't alert them, and vice versa. So if the caterer needs to know information, they need to get in touch with the supplier, and the supplier is duty bound to provide that data sheet, that information about the ingredients. And the customer should talk to the caterer, the manager, the supervisor, the staff member. So as Ruth said, sometimes that's quite a difficult conversation. You don't want to be the one that's different. You don't want to be the one that's saying, I'm the one with an allergy, I need to speak to somebody. But it's really important that you do talk to them. And you do that each and every time, because it's said that the first time you go into a restaurant, you alert that manager and say, can I speak to you? I've got a number of allergies I need to talk to you about. You might go in there 3 weeks later and go, hi, it's me. Remember me? I've got a couple of allergies. And you don't realise that actually hundreds of people have gone to that restaurant between that last visit. So you have to remind them each and every time. And the caterer's got an obligation to the customer and provide information on the menus, signage. There's lots of apps out there at the moment, some much better than others, where the customer can filter through the app to choose their menu. But we also want them to speak to the customer, actually have a conversation and confirm, I've looked through your app, I've chosen this meal, is that going to be okay for me? And on the website, to make sure the website's up to date, because caterers are always busy. So if you haven't got time to do that website, get somebody to do it for you, because your customer will go there first and look on the website. Keep accurate records. So what we did, due diligence and your responsibilities. So worst case scenario, you need to have due diligence, make sure you've made a note of everything. So in your food safety management system, your HACCP system, you will have lots of different sheets for food temperature checks, fridge temperature checks, the deliveries, etc. So we combine all information onto one large A5 sheet, and under each area where there was a risk of allergen problems. So for example, on deliveries, we would say, have you accepted a substitute item today? Yes or no? Name the item. What did you do with it? So if you sent it back, you would name, we sent it back. Or yes, we accepted it, spoke to the chef, he's accepted that new sauce or whatever it might be. So you've got written records. So if anything happens, you've got due diligence. We also had team briefs and pre-service briefs. So we actually asked the chefs to come out to the front and speak to our counter staff. So at the first, the chefs were, oh, we haven't got time, we're not speaking to them. It was a them and us situation. But in terms of allergen management, they have to speak to each other. So we had a template for a pre-service brief, and the chef would come out and talk through every item on the menu and recommend which was gluten-free or which was milk-free and which was vegan, etc. And the chef would sign it and the counter staff member would sign it as well. But also on our counter, we would have a sign that said, if you have a food allergy or intolerance, please speak to us. Our team are all trained and happy to help. And that was full stop, nothing else, no disclaimer. On the back of that sign, it said, don't guess, ask. So every single time, if a customer asked for gluten-free, they were trained to say, I'm sure this is suitable, but let me check with the chef. I'll be 2 minutes. And the chef would advise each and every time. So that pre-service brief template was signed, and that was also stapled to the HACCP food safety management paperwork. If there was any problems, we could go back and check. We'd done our due diligence, it was all there. Keep a record of feedback and investigate incidents or near misses. I know Caroline's going to talk about this. But if something might have happened, or it could have been an incident that could have gone wrong, don't dismiss it. Don't just pretend it never happened. Learn from it, because mistakes are there to learn from. It could have been much worse. So feedback, tell your manager, and the manager should do something about it and maybe change those procedures, update those procedures, because a near miss could have been something more catastrophic. So that's all I'm going to say. So I can be found on, my email is jacks@allergensupport. I've got a website and obviously a phone number, but just to say that I'm collaborating with Caroline, and we're doing a couple of workshops to go into more detail about Natasha's law, 40-minute workshops, and you can book online at foodallergyaware.co.uk. And also I've written an article about Natasha's law, which will be in a Stir It Up magazine in the August edition, I believe. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to talk when we've finished our presentation with Caroline. So thanks very much for inviting me, and I hope you found that interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. That was great. Terrific. Now we're going to go on to Caroline. I'm going to run on till 11:15 potentially, because I do want to leave time for questions at the end. But if Caroline, if you could deliver it in 15 to 20 minutes, that would be terrific. And then it'll leave some time for questions. No pressure, Caroline.
Morning. So no pressure then, exactly. So yeah, my name is Caroline Benjamin. I started Food Allergy Aware it started just before the regulations were sort of coming into force, 2012, 2013. And basically I'm gluten and dairy free, and I was frustrated about not being able to eat out, the lack of knowledge for caterers, etc. So I'm going to whiz through now. So my main presentation today is about Natasha's law and the changes from the 1st of October. So a little bit of background about the incident. So Natasha tragically died in 2016. She purchased a baguette from Pret a Manger. Pret a Manger actually were within the law at the time. They weren't breaking the law. They were actually, doing the please ask, and the information was at the side. However, Pret a Manger had been contacted by at least 6 or 7 customers in the past who actually said there was an issue with their labelling. So there was sesame flour in the bun that Natasha consumed. So it wasn't really clear. There wasn't any C's on the top of the baguette, so it wasn't really clear. And obviously that age group that don't like to ask questions. And I think, that they possibly could have done more, because Pret a Manger, had they recorded 6 or 7 reports that they'd had before, that they may have prevented this tragic death, and it might have been, a much different story that we're seeing at the moment. So a classic near miss. So it's really important to look at patterns when people are reporting stuff to you, and it might just be a face-to-face comment or a social media comment, but again, it's something that we need to look at, and trends over a period of time. So how did the change happen? So a consultation took place in 2019. The consultation was for caterers and people that suffered from allergies, and there was an overwhelming precedence that people were keen, the actual allergy community were keen that this was put forward. I don't think as many caterers actually responded as perhaps should have done, but at the end of the day, the law was enacted in September 2019, and it was becoming a law in England, Wales and Scotland from the 1st of October. So current allergen labelling for PPDS, so people could do it on a signed board, on a notice board, with the information and their allergens labelled on there. They can have a signposting saying, ask somebody about the allergen information, and those people can then give the information verbally, or they could give a allergy booklet. So signage was the way that people would go forward as what they did in pret-a-manger. So what is pre-packed for direct sale food? So it's food that is packed and prepared on the same premises, and it's served to the final consumer. So it can be prepared on the same premises, and it can be offered for sale at previous sites or various sites within the on the establishment. It could also be sold at market stalls, mobile vehicles, etc. It doesn't include food packed at consumers' request. So if somebody phones up and it's people are asking if you be prepared. So if you're at a sandwich bar and you're stood there and you're asking for the chicken, the bacon and some salad to be put in it, and they're putting it together in front of you, that's not classed as pre-packed for direct sale. So for example, here we've got a cheese and pickle sandwich. This is information that's come off the Food Standard Agency. So what do you need to include within the information if you're doing PPDS? So you need to include the name of the food. It should be descriptive, and it's going to inform the customer what it contains. So we've got an example there of customary names can be used. So BLT sandwich as the title, but you still need to include all the ingredients below. So within the ingredients list, it needs to be in the order of quantity, the highest quantity first. It should include all the ingredients, so a breakdown. So it's got to be the bread, so it's got bread in there. If it's got pickle, it needs to include all the different items of the pickle. It needs to include the ham, so obviously if the ham contains breadcrumbs on it or sulfites, that needs to be included as well. So it needs to be broken down into that type of way. Allergens still need to be labelled, the 14 allergens. And they need to be highlighted either in bold or underlined or in a different type of text or different colour. It's up to the person doing that as they need to do it. But it needs to be consistent, so you need to make sure that it's correct. So when you're preparing those sandwiches, you don't deviate from there as well. And I think, like Jackie was saying earlier, different ingredients from different suppliers can be different, can contain different allergens. So for example, we know that mayonnaises, there's 4 mayonnaises that are prepared from the same brand, but those 3 mayonnaises, those 3 mayonnaises all contain different allergens, and one of them contains milk, which you wouldn't expect. So it's the light mayonnaise which contains milk and not the full fat one. So again, being aware of what's in the information and transferring it into a label. So how should the labels be presented? The information must appear very clearly on the packaging. It shouldn't be over stickered. So this week we were away. I went into a sandwich bar and they stuck a label over the top of the ingredients label, so it wasn't clear. And actually, when if you pulled that label off, it was taking the labelling away from underneath it. So again, it must be easy, visible, and very legible. So be careful not to over sticker things on your food. It shouldn't be difficult to read. It should be a certain size text. And the labels can be handwritten. We probably wouldn't advise it, but they need to meet the requirements that are above. So it needs to be really visible and very clearly legible. Jackie mentioned technology is our friend. So software solutions are out there. And to be fair, a lot of the webinars that we're seeing at the moment are all being run by technology companies that are promoting what they do and their labelling, which is great. It's getting information out there. But you need to think about if that system goes down and there's no internet or you can't print that labelling, you need to think ahead and be proactive and put out pre-printed labels so that you can actually make sure that you can provide the information on your food. So the FSA have provided a tool on their website, and you can go through to check what is PPDS, because there is a lot of confusion. There is lots of different variations of way people serve food and package food, etc. So there's a chart here where it says, is the food presented to the customer in packaging? Yes or no. Is it packaged before the customer selects or order it? Yes or no. And it helps you to go down and understand exactly the foods that you need there. Sorry, I'm getting a bit croaky. So here's some examples of 3 types of cookies that are here. So the first one is pre-packed. It's supplied by the manufacturer and the supplier. It will have the information on the back. It will have the nutritional information at that stage. It will have the ingredient information, and hopefully all the allergens will be highlighted. In the second picture here, these are cookies that are made on site and they're being bagged and then sold within the bags, and then the bag is sealed up. This is classed as the PPDS. And on the far right, you've got a cookie that's being served on a plate that somebody's ordered. So again, the allergen information for that can be asked for verbally, but the first two will need to be labelled and the information be available on the back of the packaging. So this is just a very quick image. It was quite difficult during lockdown to get some of the images out there. So pre-1st of October, the first image there, you could put a piece of cake into a piece of into packaging. You put a label on it, and you could just serve it from your counter or from your grab and go area. From the 1st of October, you're going to need to put a label on that packaging. The other way that you can do it is you can leave it open. It's not the way that we'd advise to do it, but you can leave it open, that they can help themselves. And then if they need to go to a till or something, they can put a lid on it, but they need to be aware of what the allergens are in there, and they need to be able to communicate. And you as the venue need to be able to provide that information. And then on the far right is the non-pre-packed food standard. So it's on a plate, it's served, you pick it up on the plate. And again, that information needs to be either communicated verbally or via allergy charts, etc. So again, here's some more examples. So burgers or sausage rolls that are wrapped up prior to the customer ordering it, that are put on hot counters, they need to be labelled. Sandwiches, salads, deli bars that do pizzas, little salad pots. I was at a deli last week up in the Lake District, and they were doing coleslaw. They had a little label on it saying coleslaw, but there was no ingredient information. And to be fair, a lot of the smaller businesses, when I'm going around, and coffee shops, are not really aware at the moment of Natasha's law. So again, being aware of what actually you need to do in your responsibilities. On the right hand side, some examples of what is not. So pies that are displayed openly as they are there, that could be changed. But just within a deli area, if you're doing cheese and you're wrapping it up and there's actually additional ingredients into that cheese, if it's wrapped and you've got a ticket on it with the pricing, you need the ingredient labelling as well. Oh, my screen's. Sorry, my screen is frozen. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So again, farm shops and delis, just being aware of what you need to actually have available, and how you package it and how you display it, etc. Needs the labelling as appropriate to what's there. Distance selling. So when someone's doing fast food or ordering or takeaway, the PPDS is not actually required on the actual product, but it does need to be available at the source of ordering and at the source of delivery. Before they purchase, they need to have the information. So the PPDS doesn't really apply to when you've sort of done the ordering, but having the available information on the internet and the point of ordering is quite important. So just a few pictures there, or of some examples. The sandwiches placed into packaging by the food and sold on the same premises. Free samples, even if you're giving away free samples of cakes, etc., and they are packaged, they need to have labelling on there. Just because it's free, it doesn't mean that you don't have to give that information out. So resources to help you on the FSA website, there's the guidance that's out there. There is a labelling training course on the Food Standard Agency's website as well. And there's also the allergen training that's out there, which they've updated earlier this year. It is very basic, you know, and we would advise, you know, face-to-face training is so much better, even if it's online face-to-face training, because you can ask the questions that maybe confuse you and get the information correct. Jackie mentioned that we're doing some workshops, and they are bite-sized 40-minute sessions. It's only £15 to come along, but you can ask the questions that you might not be able to ask on a webinar. You can, you know, put the examples forward. So please do, you know, feel free to take a look at the website where we're registering for that. So just really to highlight again why we're doing this, it's prevention. We want to prevent those 10 deaths a year. We want to make sure that we keep people safe. You know, one life taken is one too many. As far as, you know, we're concerned, we want to get the message out there, and for you to provide a safe customer journey. We've highlighted, both Ruth and Jackie have talked about the near miss reporting, and I mentioned it at the very beginning. We're looking at putting a campaign forward, and you know, you are obliged to log your incidences that happen, but think about the near miss reporting. You know, there's been so many times when I've gone out and I've been given a coffee with the incorrect milk, and it was noticed by a colleague, and the girl behind the counter was like, oh, don't tell my manager, don't tell my boss. But actually you need to understand why that's happened. You need to make sure your staff pick up on the fact that it's happened and it doesn't happen again, and how do you prevent that and put your processes in place. So yeah, please do get in contact. If it's something you do, near miss reporting, shout about it, tell people and get it out there. If you have technology that does your reporting and doesn't pick up on near miss reporting, go back to your supplier and talk to them and get them to say why it should be there, and start, you know, logging those near misses. If your customer comes back to you and says there's an issue with this, there's a problem, listen to them and make a note of it and make sure there's not a trend going on. That's me. So hopefully I've done it in the time allotted and whizzed through. Sorry it was so fast. But hopefully it's a whistle stop to all the regulations. And back to you.
Fantastic, Caroline. Thank you so much. I think that all three presentations were really good. Thank you all very much indeed. So now we've got 15 minutes or so for questions. Is anyone going to be brave enough to raise their hand at this stage? No? Yeah, raise hand from Carl. Yes, two participants. Ed, can you unmute one of the participants, please? And could you say who you are before you speak, please?
I'm just unmuting Nick Owen.
Oh, hi, I'm Nick Owen. I manage a hostel accommodation in the Lake District. My question sits around packed lunches. So we sell a packed lunch as an entity, and it includes some proprietary stuff like carton of juice and packet of crisps. But also includes the sandwich that we make on the premises. We make those to people's specific requests, if you like. So we also make them for school groups where we might make say a selection of 30 or different fill-ins. Does this labelling apply in that case? We have a conversation with the teachers and the kids and obviously the customers as well, but does this labelling apply then? We also include in that a homemade flapjack and wrap that in cling film typically, and we sell them over the counter as well. So I just wonder if anyone can advise there, please.
Caroline?
Yeah, Jackie, we've had this conversation, haven't we, Jackie, just recently? You're on mute still, Jackie. But yes, you would need to label them, because it's, you know, there may be that you might have an error that the wrong sandwich is put in the wrong bag. So again, it's that double check mechanism. The flapjack should be labelled as well. You should have the information. The other thing that you could have is a sheet with if everyone's got the same flapjack and there's no differences, then you could have a sheet with all the information on it. But I would say the sandwiches should all be individually labelled. Jackie, what do you feel?
Yeah, particularly for schools. I've been doing training for schools, and this has come up a few times. What happens if the children go out on a school trip and it's the teacher that's giving out the sandwiches? Then in that case, yes, certainly they do need to label. I think actually if it's a guest at your hostel who have asked specifically for a particular sandwich and you hand it to them, there is that opportunity for a conversation. But I would advise, if in doubt, stick a label on it, is my advice, I think.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move on. Ed, could you unmute someone else, please?
I'll go for Emma Thornton next.
Emma?
Hi, we have a farm shop and deli, so we have overserved counters, and also we do our own pies that are made on site and pre-packed. When we serve over the counter, we obviously put them in a bag and put a printed label on. At the moment, they all have allergen information on, but am I right in thinking that Natasha's law means they need a full ingredients list, or is the allergen information that we have enough? Just going forward, I'd just like to know.
So if you're putting them in a bag and the bag is sealed by the label, you will need the full ingredient information. If you're going to take them from the deli counter and put them into a bag, then you wouldn't need them, but you'd have to have the information available.
Right, so we have a full file that has all the full information in. Yeah, but when we take them from the deli, put them in a bag, seal them with a label, and then they go to the till. So rather than just having the printed allergens on that label that we have now, they would need full ingredients.
So are you saying that you bag them when the customer asks for them, or they're bagged before the customer asks for them?
We do have both, you see. We have some on the counter that are in a multi-deck fridge that are bagged, ready to take off the shelf. But we also have products that are lifted from a counter, put in a bag, but they are still sealed with a label that has the allergens on, and then taken to a till and scanned.
I would say that are pre-bagged need to have full ingredient labelling.
Right.
The ones that you're taking from the deli counter and putting into a bag with the labelling is great because you're putting best practice in there, but the person then would communicate. And I would say to, the person when you're communicating, we've put the allergen information on there for you, so you've communicated it. And obviously if they need further information, they would need to then communicate. Would you say that?
So the ones that are in the fridge kind of ready to go, they need further information than just the allergens. They need all full ingredients.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, where you take a product off a shelf and there's not going to be a conversation with a member of staff, it needs a label. If it's across a counter where the customer asks a member of staff and can then mention an allergy or ask about allergen information, it doesn't particularly need a label. But as Caroline said, if you've already got a label there, that's good practice.
Right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ed, can we go to another one, please?
Yeah, let's move on to Margarita Darley-Smith.
Margarita.
Hello. We have a small sandwich shop, and we've just introduced a catering offer. So my question is, do we need to introduce, so the catering offer will be sandwiches, the usual thing, cut in four, kind of packaged as a one thing and then passed on to a customer. And in the middle we'll have a like crisps or salad. How do we label this? Do we need, because all the sandwiches will be kind of together as one, do we need to start, I don't know, package them as a, I don't know, as a part, grouping them together as just, let's say, just beef and so forth? Or do we just put all of the allergens and ingredients on the package?
Okay.
Are they different flavoured sandwiches in each? Is it all the same flavour sandwich or different sandwiches?
So they are different flavour sandwiches, but they're all in the same big platter, essentially.
And are they sealed? And so would they come along and say, I want one cheese, one ham, one whatever? Is it sealed in a bag or is it loose and then they come and choose it?
Well, they will pre-order it and then we'll prepare them and give it to them afterwards.
If they pre-order it, is the information available online on your website?
We can make it available online, yes.
So as Caroline mentioned, if it's something they pick up as a delivery or pre-order situation, if they can find information before or can discuss it with you on the phone and have the allergies.
Company, have you, Margaret?
Yeah, sorry.
Fine.
Yes. And do we need to have additional labeling on the actual platter?
I think we need to more clarification. It's not really clear. So when you say a platter, so is it like 4 triangles of a sandwich on the same platter, which are all different, and then a packet of crisps and an additional item?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So you'll have to have a conversation with somebody about that, because each order will be different, presumably. So if you're having a conversation, then there's the opportunity to talk about allergens.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Margarita, great point. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Another participant, please.
Yeah, we'll move on to Lisa Rogers.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, it's actually Louise. I'm with Lisa.
Mhm.
A question: as a wholesaler, our responsibility is to make sure that using software, we use Eridus, our allergen information is updated daily.
Mhm.
So when we take an order from our customer and we have to substitute,
Mhm.
and we do substitute, and we have a conversation, who actually checks the allergen information? So if we deliver a mayonnaise or a mustard and the customer's ordered one type and we deliver another type and we haven't checked that allergen information, where's the responsibility there?
The caterer should check the, so when they check the delivery, they should check the delivery matches the particular order. So if they've ordered a particular brand of mayonnaise or whatever it might be, then a different one is delivered. They should then check the allergens. That's what I train the caterers to do. However, as a supplier, are you the supplier or the manufacturer? Sorry.
Well, I'm from Birchall's. I'm the supplier.
Yeah, so as a supplier, then you would, best practice would be to alert the caterer as they place the order, or on the delivery notes, substitute item highlighted.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they've got the responsibility of accepting it to do something about it. Either send it back, because their policy might be we don't want to accept substitutes, which is fair enough, or yes, we'll accept it, but we have a process in place.
Right, okay, so as we're taking the order, if we offer a substitute and it's online, we can communicate with them, there's a separate product, we could ourselves check that allergen information to make sure there's no other or different allergens in there. If there is, it's on a separate product code anyway, but we could notify on paperwork as well, on the invoice or delivery note.
Yes, I think it's better so that everybody kind of communicates. That's the point, communication. It's better not to just pass it on and not say anything, because there could be consequences.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you.
Would it be at the point of order as well? So if the person's on the phone and ordering and they're going to be told that stock's not there,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But we've gone, most of our, a chunk of our orders are taken online.
And
if we're offering a substitute, we will message back a substitute and they'll say yes, but we don't go into the level at that stage of the differences. We just send a substitute. And one I've picked up today, that we ourselves now are going to check allergen information on that substitution to make sure there's no more nor less. You're receiving a different product on a different product code, but we need to notify you, possibly on the delivery note, substitution sent. Because the person placing the order could be different from the person receiving it in.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who are you going to take next, please?
I'm just going to pick up a question from the chat, just to change the tact a little bit. The question is, will there be a bedding in period, or will the legislation be strictly applied as of the 1st of October?
You want to comment on that one, Caroline or Jackie?
No bedding in period. That we've had quite enough time already, so they haven't extended the date. So the 1st of October is going to be the deadline date when people should actually be ready. The worrying thing is obviously the smaller businesses that aren't aware of it. So if there's suppliers on the line, it's passing that information down to your customers to make them aware that Natasha's law is coming and they need to have the information available, because there is no big registry within local authorities where businesses have to register an email. When you register a business, you just register your name and address. There's no email registration. So literally your local authority can't email everybody to let people know what's going on. And that's the same with the FSA and businesses. So it's the venue or the caterer's responsibility to find out what laws apply to them. There's no, oh, I didn't know about it, because that's not a get out, unfortunately. That's not going to be in a court of law.
I agree.
There's 3 people with their hands raised very patiently, and I'm going to take those 3 questions and bring the session to a close. So Ed, whoever you want to take in next, please.
We'll start with Darren Booth.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, fine, yeah.
I'm head chef at a university, and we have a lot of hospitality buffets, hot, cold food, a mixture of everything. At the moment, if it's a large-scale buffet, we'll do an A4 sign with what's on it and the allergens under each one. Will that still be sufficient? Will we have to change it up a bit?
Thank you.
So with my experience in universities, Darren, so yeah, I'm familiar with that situation. So the buffet, the food is not pre-packed.
No.
Somebody will have chosen that, and best practice would be that when you, I don't know if you have got a hospitality system, booking system.
We have got a booking system, but
yeah, so which one do you use?
Will phone up and just say, I've got so much to spend, can you sort something out?
Yeah, so at that stage you need to be asking, be proactive about it, and ask at that stage or on your booking system. Make sure that there's always a question, does anybody in the group have any allergies we need to know about, and then you're prepared. And then it might be that you prepare separate dishes for them, but also you won't need to put allergen labels as such, because the things aren't wrapped, are they? They're left open or on a platter. So as long as the allergen information is to hand on a menu, or also individual platters, although the labels might get moved, admittedly, but if you've got the opportunity to put individual labels by each platter, i.e. cakes with with the allergen information underneath. And if you want more information, because I've got experience of that from my previous role, I can speak to you about that separately.
No problem, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, we're down to the last two questions then. Ed, who are you going to take next?
We'll go for Ross Kiddy.
Hi, Ross. Are you there, Ross? Hello, Ross.
You're mute, Ross.
No, Ross.
He's
Okay,
still muted.
Still muted.
Still muted, yeah.
Can you unmute yourself, Ross, please? We'll come back to Ross in a minute.
Yeah, we'll jump in with Peter Levy.
Hi, Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Woo, thank you. Right, now my question was similar to the chap who works at the university. I'm a head chef or chef manager, working contract catering, and we recently had a buffet. And at the moment, what we do is we'll take the order, ask if there's any dietary requirements, allergens and so forth, and then I do a breakdown of the menu, and then beside it I do an allergen sheet beside that. Is that sufficient? I think it's similar to the question the chap asked earlier. Will that be sufficient? Because what I'm thinking as well is if we were prepared to serve the buffet for the client, but the client said, no, just leave some gloves on the side and we'll help ourselves. We didn't want to do that, but that's what they requested. So if we then walk away and they're helping themselves, are we going to have cross-contamination with the utensils and so forth? Is it best to have somebody there all the time?
So in terms of cross-contamination, the people with allergies, you will already prepared their meals separately, presumably.
Yeah.
Put them on a separate plate, maybe with the names on, and put them
exactly
on a
with the names and the requirements.
So if you've already asked the question and made it clear that allergen dishes will be prepared separately, then those that arrive at the buffet and then unexpected allergen guests, perhaps perhaps if somebody was there initially when the guests come in and say, is everybody okay? Is there anything, we haven't prepared for you? Because sometimes, as you know, at buffets, you get guests who haven't declared their allergens. So just make sure. And then once you're happy, if all the information, again, is there on a menu or on individual labels for each platter, then they can obviously read the information given to them.
And then we can just leave it to them, walk away.
Yeah, I would suggest that those with allergens will already have made themselves known.
Yeah. So we'll keep them separate. Yeah, right, brilliant. That's great. Yeah.
Also to add that we also used to leave a phone number. So
right.
Any questions, a kitchen number or whatever's the best number to ring.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Like guests that arrived with a particular dietary requirement. So if there are any problems or concerns about this menu, please ring. And then you've always got somebody you know, and that we can go back with whatever.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the other thing is if you've got an unexpected person that comes to you with an allergen, take them down first before everyone comes down for food. So often
Yes.
take them along first so they can take food before the stuff gets mixed up in the tongs. It's quite
Right.
interesting what you say about leaving a phone number. So when the legislation came out quite a while back, I was at a committee meeting and they left the food for us and a telephone number, and it was at 7 o'clock at night and nobody was there to answer the phone. So also
Oh,
make
geez.
sure you leave a phone number, you are there, it's a phone number that people can contact you on. It's no good, you know, having it there otherwise, but it's
Right.
a good point.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Ed, can we try the gentleman who we couldn't get hold of? Is he still got his hand up or not?
Yeah, we'll try one more time, shall we?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Okay.
So you need to
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Sorry, I'm a bit of a Zoom virgin. I need my 10-year-old to help me with this. Anyway, I have a takeaway dessert shop, so I feel a little bit, you know, I'm a bit of a small shop compared to everybody else that's asked questions. But we are a very busy takeaway. We sell desserts, we sell waffles and things that we freshly prepare on site. So I've got quite a few questions actually. My first question is, do the labelling laws apply to us, as the majority of our orders are for people that have customised a dessert, have said, oh, I want it with cream, or I want it with extra Nutella or extra strawberries, where and then the other customers would probably look on the menu and say, I'll order a particular product and it will be made fresh to order. So would they need to be labelled? They are served in boxes as we make them, but
they're actually done to order. So I would say that if they're done to order and the customer's requesting the items to be added together and then boxed, then no, you don't need the PPDS, because like Jackie said, it's the communication, you're talking to them.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the information on the website, Ros? Is it clear on the website? Your
we don't have a website, unfortunately, and we I feel awful saying this, but we have adopted almost a no guarantee of allergy policy, because we are a really small shop and we are terrified of people dying in case there is a contamination of nuts in something that we've said doesn't have nuts intrinsically. And we come across people. We're also in the process of rewriting the menu in line for October, I suppose, but just rewriting our menu, and we are looking at best practices, if you like. So we're looking at the likes of Subway and Domino's, because our ingredient lists are enormous. When we provide a product, for example, I have a waffle that we provide that comes with ice cream, that comes with cream, that has various different toppings. And so we have to, on our database, on our computerized database, I'm proud to say, we have a list of all the toppings, we have a list of all the ingredients in the main product, so that if somebody customizes, we can, and they ask us or they tell us that they have an allergy, we can say, this product has this allergy. My fear is if I create a menu, this is my question, if I create a menu and I maybe have a symbol next to something, people may assume that if, for example, you were ordering a waffle with an ice cream and cream, that by saying, oh, by ordering it and saying, can you remove the cream and ice cream, without telling us that they have an allergy, the presumption will be that the product is safe for them. But the intrinsic part of the recipe contains dairy. How do I communicate that to a customer without having reels and reels of recipes online or anywhere else?
Thanks, Ros. Ruth, did you want to come in and say anything on any of Ros's comments? Ruth,
yeah, for me that is one of the things that's caught me out, is things like a waffle. Like if it's in the actual batter of the waffle, that's dangerous. So I would say label it as not safe for someone with dairy.
Yeah, and this is where I would like to be able to open up our products for people that have, but we have had so many issues where we're trying to help people by asking questions, but a lot of the time people don't tell us. we had a situation where a customer came in and said she didn't want Nutella, but didn't tell us it was because she didn't want Nutella because she had an allergy. We didn't know whether she had an allergy or not. She just asked for a separate source. And it's having, and like you said, it's having people remembering to say, is it because you have an allergy? And is it, and continuously saying that, because we have people coming in, and at the moment we don't have a seating service at the moment. We've closed that part down. So we have people coming in, spending a couple of minutes, making an order and leaving and then coming back. So that conversation that you perhaps could have in a restaurant, in a seating and having a waitering service, we don't have that. So how do I?
You have a sign. You have a sign, Ross.
We do have a sign. We do have a sign to say ask, but our main customer group are young adults. We have the majority of our customers are 18 to 25-year-olds. And if they don't tell us, we're so worried that somebody's going to go away and die because they've not asked us the question, or maybe we've not asked them the right question. And when I've looked at, when we've all done allergy training through food hygiene, it doesn't, there isn't this importance on what the customer needs to do. And whilst I think the law that's happening is great to help caterers and businesses like myself to know what to do for customers, what is there that's set up for people who have allergies to be empowered to be able to ask? Because there are bodies like the Vegetarian Society, there are bodies that, for example, in our area, we have a huge amount of Muslim customers that have their food regulated by different organizations. And these are dietary things. But when you're coming to allergies, we look at it as this can be life-threatening. And there doesn't seem to be a body that can say, right, I will give you a stamp because I can say that your products are allergy friendly. And I think, I mean, my son's got an allergy, it's not a food allergy, but I have to avoid places because I know how ill he gets. And I just feel that there needs to be something like that for people who have allergies, who know how to ask the questions, who know that it's life-threatening, and it's not simple as saying, I can't have cream, so I'll just have the waffle, because they don't know how to ask the question of what else has it got in it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to do what I do.
Yeah,
because I think there's equal. I have to. If I don't tell you, then it's not your fault. If I don't tell you I have an allergy and something awful happens, it's not your fault. And there's definitely a lot of responsibility on me to be clear and confident at communicating, and that's kind of why I do what I do.
Yeah,
doesn't help you, does it?
It doesn't help us, and I suppose I wanted to speak up as that small business that perhaps was looked down on, in saying it's not right to have a blanket, we don't serve people with multiple allergies. But I feel that I sometimes have to say that to people. I have to say to people, look, do you understand that if I do this, this and this, I still can't guarantee it, because there might be peanuts in the air, there might be
in my training,
and it might kill you. And I don't want to have to say that to somebody. It's a horrible thing to say.
In my training,
sorry,
Ruth, go on.
I was going to say, I'd rather you did say, if you think it's I think that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, and in my training, I tell my my delegates that if it's not possible, it is better to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
The law says you don't have to provide. The law says you have to provide information.
Yes.
About ingredient and allergen content. If it's not practical in your situation, then it's much safer to say, unfortunately, we can't cater.
Yeah, and talk about your processes more about the processes that you have. I mean, I worked with a pub that basically made pizzas, made the dough, had bread products everywhere, and literally they couldn't serve someone that was celiac. Even if they did a salad, there was like dust in the air, you could see flour everywhere. So you know, my sort of recommendation to them was, look, you say to these people, this is what our process is, this is what we do. Unfortunately, we can't. However, maybe have a recommendation. To a certain extent, it was always like, I know this place up the road, they do really good meals for celiac. I mean, it's not always the best thing to do, but at the end of the day, you're being in that customer service environment. But it's like, we keep talking here, it's about communication, talking to the customer what you can do, and don't be frightened to say what you can't do. Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you can provide something safely. But it's just about the agencies that are out there. You've got the anaphylaxis campaign, you've got Allergy UK and FSA, and they all do the campaigns. Is it Always Ask, isn't it, at the moment, is the one that's out there for youngsters. Lots of signage out there, and encourage your servers to have that conversation. Oh, if somebody asks for something without dairy, make it a little red light thing. Oh, do you have a dairy allergy or an intolerance? Do you, you know, and then go on to have the next bit of conversation, be able to pick it up. And it's all about training your staff to communicate properly, really.
Ruth, I've got one question for you. When you've been in, I mean, I don't know if you ever have, but when I went into Domino's, as I said, for good practice, and I asked for an allergy list, and they gave me this 100-fold booklet that the writing was really small, and like, I need glasses to read everything anyway. And I just thought, this is horrendous. And to publish something myself, I thought to myself, is this actually going to benefit somebody? Do people actually look through these booklets? Isn't it just a minefield? Isn't there something simpler? Is there something simpler that we can do?
I call it the Chinese Bible, because it is a bit like, whoa, you get this thing whacked down the table and everyone else is ordering from a nice piece of paper and you've got to go like, but for me, I need that mind, because otherwise I can't.
Well, so if your system, you're using an online and not using a company, we've got an Excel spreadsheet on our website which is free to download.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's conditionally formatted, so it's quite easy to set up. So you'd have like a page for starters, one for main courses or whatever. We did do Denny's a while ago, and there's an example on the Denny's allergy page of what it looks like, and you can have an internal version, and then you can hide lines and have an external version. So it's really sort of for small businesses. It's not for large companies, to be fair, but it's something that can help you.